Well, I think those INFJs, in some sense, they have it the roughest of all INFJs and possibly of all the types as well, because not only do they have to deal with the fact of having inferior SE, which means that the encounter and the processing of the data of external reality is already a struggle. But if in addition to that, they are hypersensitive or highly sensitive people, meaning that quite apart from notions of type, although there's obviously overlapping between the two concepts, but quite apart from questions of type, there really are people who experience the world more intensely and sometimes too intensely, such that they seek to retreat, really establish like a physical comfort zone where they can replenish their resources. Often for these people, the world is felt to be aggressive, hostile, and overwhelming on three levels: emotional sensitivity, intuitive sensitivity, and sensory sensitivity. Sensory stimuli being easily such as to overwhelm if they multiply. So this can happen to anyone, or this can be the case of anyone. But if it happens to an INFJ, it's easy to see how that only results in compounding the challenge of inferior SE, because you're already struggling at a functional level to process external reality. But in addition to that, you're born in some sense with a skin that is thinner than the average person. You're more sensitive. You experience things more intensely, but that means that they overwhelm you more easily as well. And I think that when you're a highly sensitive person who's also INFJ, yeah, in a sense, you're dealt a difficult hand, because it's hard to know how you're going to manage to cope with the world. And for these reasons, I'm strongly of the opinion that this kind of person is very likely to end up being a solipsistic INFJ, an INFJ who's world-denying and self-contained. Of course, these INFJs might be adaptive submissive as well, because adaptive submission is also a coping mechanism and a way of paradoxically protect yourself from others by not letting others react, and potentially, or at least you're afraid they might dismiss the individuality of your NI world, by essentially repressing that NI world, not showing that NI world to people. And in this way, really, you're just protecting yourself from others. And the price to pay is obviously the sacrifice of your individuality, which results in an impoverishment of your being. It ought not to be underestimated. There are spiritual consequences to this. But I think a lot of the time, when you're a highly sensitive person, even adaptiveness is difficult, because adaptiveness means being in the midst of a lot of other people who are throwing their stimuli at you. Again, social, intuitive, emotional, and sensory. Interacting with other people does involve a lot of sensory stimulation, and adaptation, forced adaptation and submissiveness, at some level, that is also an extra effort, because it's not your natural way of being. So to force yourself into the clothes of that way of being means that you're going to experience some heightened stimulation as well. So I think for this reason, most of these INFJs tend to fall into solipsism. It's hard to go towards spiritualization. It's possible, of course, these paths are available, but it's going to be difficult, because again, the experience of severance also means that you're going to be exposed to, in a sense, the call of two sides, the NI world and the external world, and that also means intensity and stimulation and the difficulty to cope with it. What to do to be in the world in a manner that is as conducive to flourishing and blossoming. It's difficult to say, but if I were to contribute a little joke, it's not a joke. I think there's a grain of truth to it. It's just a thought I had earlier, and I thought, well, since I had that thought, I'll share it. If you could date an ISTP, if you're that kind of person and you could date an ISTP, maybe do that. because first of all, in the ICP is probably an underrated type by INFJs. INFJs who've thought long and hard about the kind of compatibility they have with people of other types, they often by themselves come to the conclusion that ISTPs are very compatible types. But ISTPs usually are people who are quite thoughtful, they're introverts. If they connect well to their NI function, that can work well with INFJs. And they're also people who really tend to be very good at regulating their interaction with the external world, partly because their SE is auxiliary, so it's kind of a natural way for them. But usually they have this thoughtfulness and sensitivity, or this acute understanding of how the external world interacts with them, that is also informed by their use of the TI dominant function. And I think that can also be a way for the INFJ to learn to, if you like, to discover and to harness the best possible modus operandi for interacting with the external world in such a way that they get enough stimulation that they don't wilt, they don't wilt and fade. But at the same time, that is, given their innate sensitivity, a level of engagement that is calibrated enough that they can cope. And I think that ISTPs are people who often have a very intuitive way of doing this. And if you can be in a relationship with one, you might learn a lot from them in a way that is not aggressive and overwhelming and might develop quite organically. But these are my 2 cents. And of course, this is not necessarily a call for you to, like spend the next years of your life desperately searching for an ISTP to date. But, if you get the opportunity, don't underestimate that. You know that I have written 2 books on the INFJ, which you can both get at the links below. The Ecstatic Soul, which is my book on the INFJ consciousness and its existential manifestations. Pretty deep investigation into the mind of an INFJ. And, more topical, I guess, given this current video, The Infinite Soul, which is my new book on INFJ life in the modern world, how to lead productive, but especially, I would say, meaningful, purposeful, and rich lives in a world that is often felt to be hostile to us. And I discuss, such things as the solipsist INFJ, the adaptive, the spiritualized INFJ, and other topics that I delve into in my videos as well. So you can get the book below. If you haven't dropped a review yet, please consider it, because this book needs more reviews. And don't forget that the lifeblood of my channel is my Patreon page. Any support from you keeps the channel going. I would be immensely grateful. And over there, you can interact with me. You can ask me questions. Mostly you support the channel, and like I said, you help me to keep it going. And I'm really, really grateful to my supporters. So consider it, please, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.